Yo, what's going on? It's DJ Crowley here, and it's Simmer Down live from home once again. And it's been a while since we've done some interviews. We've been on the road. We're doing all kinds of festivals. One of our favorites, man. We finally got to do Camp Redwoods. Got to run into this guy, the one, the only Johnny Cosmic. What's going on, man?
What's up, dude?
We're so happy to have you here. The redemption song, I guess you could say. I do want to start it off here, man. We're gonna talk about you for the most part of this interview, but obviously you're in arguably one of the biggest reggae bands in the world right now. I do want to ask you, how did this whole stick figure thing happen? Because I never got, I don't think we've ever talked about that. When did you meet Scott? How did it all happen?
It actually goes back to a band I was in previously called Fluid Minds, with Mike DeGuzman from Pacifier. And we were jamming in a group for a couple of years. Pacifier ended up picking him up, and they went on tour for a couple of years. Fast forward, he gives me a call one day, and he's like, "Yo, our stage tech." Got called out to Warp Tour, and the guy that we like our backup guy can't do it, and we've got to do this tour in like a week. He's like, I know it's not what you normally do, but would you be willing to jump in and help us out? And I had a job at the time. I was working at this printing press, waking up at like 2 or 3 in the morning to start work, and then doing some live performances at a sandwich shop called Potbelly afterwards. That so, and then producing when I got home from there. So I was just getting really run down, and I had been kind of praying for like some kind of reason, to like do something different. And so he called me up and offered this. So I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm in. Hopped in the van with them, and we did like about 3 months on a summer tour, the Summer Hotbox Tour 2013. And Stick was co-headlining that tour. And so I got to know the guys. K-Bong and I started like working on some tracks together. We had a chance to kind of bond over music and stuff like that. And Scott had heard one of the tunes that we worked on, and he's like, "Yo, can you throw some percussion and stuff down on my album as well?" And I was like, "Yeah, for sure." Um, and that was the Set in Stone record. Um, so I was throwing down some stuff for him, and it was like right around that same time they had done a tour with Slightly Stupid, and OG was jumping up on their set and doing like percussion and stuff. And so they started getting the idea. They're like, maybe we should get a percussion player or something like that. And just right around that same time, I had been throwing down percussion on the recordings and stuff. So they were like, fuck it, why don't we ask Johnny to join? And yeah, I guess the rest is history.
The rest is history. Fast forward to now, just got done with a national tour that I think you guys sold out almost every show, all these amphitheaters, all these unbelievable festivals. Tell us real quick, man, how was this last tour? I mean, I'm sure it was just full of everything.
Yeah, it felt like we kind of definitely stepped up the production a level, which was really cool and interesting. The lights and like the stage and everything got definitely more yeah, it was just kind of a whole new experience for us. Nesta, the guy who was doing our lights, he did an incredible job. And yeah, uh, yeah, it was just a really, really interesting production and cool learning experience.
It was absolute. I mean, we didn't make it out to any of the shows, unfortunately, but man, everything I was seeing was just absolutely incredible. I mean, you got pyrotechnics on
Mhm.
every show now. It's incredible to see what's happened to the band over the years, man. But I want to get into more of the cosmic of you. And we've got some cool questions from the family going on tonight, but I do want to start off here on just you in general. We're going to go back even further. How did you start playing music? Where did this all come from?
I started playing music when I was in sixth grade. That's when I joined my first band. Me and my buddy Justin started jamming together. And just I don't know, we advanced pretty quickly, we got very familiar with our instruments, and I think by like seventh grade we were already doing opening gigs in bars and stuff uh, for some of the other older bands in town. Um, and so it really just kind of started there, and I haven't stopped since, you know.
You absolutely haven't. Hey, if you're just tuning in, you're late. We got the one, the only Johnny Cosmic in the house. We got to talk about the studio because that's your happy place, man. I want to dig into it first here. We had one of our, the stick figure family ask some questions here, and this one's from Sarah Whitner. So you're heading into the studio. What, if any, things do you do to get into the right mindset before you create the music?
Hmm. I don't know. I don't really have like a ritual or anything. Uh, and I try not to think about it too much, I guess, really. You making music is definitely like a very kind of feeling oriented thing. You know, if you get like too clinical about it, like you start trying to analyze it too much or break it down too much in your mind, you can actually kind of sabotage what you're trying to achieve, you know? So I think a lot of times, whether we're in the studio or we're playing live or something, kind of the ideal space to be in is like where you're not really thinking about it at all. It's just kind of flowing through you, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Feeling is the I think it's the most important thing with music. If it feels right, it's right. Is there
Right.
like how do you know when it feels right? Like I was watching interview you did with Vibes Alive and Brett. They do a great job over there. It was you and Clemente, and you had some interesting things you were talking about. How do you know when it feels right? What's that like thing that goes off in your head like that's right.
Well, sometimes it's like an actual physical reaction, you know, like say like the hairs stand up or right or something like that, or you kind of like your body starts to buzz a little bit. Um, I think at some point in time we've all kind of experienced that, you know. So as a musician, just kind of getting in tune with that feeling on a really sensitive level. Um, the other thing is like sometimes I just hear things, and the only way I can describe it is like certain things will have like an aura about them, you know? There's like they just like shimmer or shine in a certain way that catches your eye, you know, it just catches your attention, and you go, yeah, this is like something, you know.
Mhm.
uh Most important thing is just to trust your intuition, like feel like your gut can give you a lot of information about what's happening on a subconscious level that you can't even quite analyze like in a conscious mind, you know. It's all happening quicker than your thoughts can even really analyze it, you know. So you got to trust in your intuition, and if you get like yeah, so it's all about just fine tuning to that and becoming really sensitive to that.
Absolutely. Trusting your intuition, trusting your gut. I was listening to the Rick Rubin's new the book, and we had a book on tape. What's the new book
Yeah.
called? Do you remember what that one's called? I can't remember what the book's called, but it's
It
fantastic.
escaped my mind. Yeah, I read it. It's a great book.
and he talks about that idea of trusting your gut. If you feel something, or something feels weird or feels off or feels right or feels perfect or whatever it is, go with it, because that's something to think about. What was it called? The Creative Act. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's,
yeah.
yeah, such an amazing book. Yeah. So let's dig deeper into production. Number one, the people that you've chosen to work with are some of my favorites, man. Big shout out to Brendan Clemente, and
Yeah.
Vana, and the whole
Mhm.
crew, man. I remember when Time came out, and I was living up in Massachusetts, but I didn't know Brendan as well quite yet. And that song came out, and it had that, like, the hairs, went up
Yeah. Yeah.
on your body, and you feel that
Sure.
thing. It was so magical. And Clemente is just such an amazing talent. What draws you to somebody like that, especially somebody who maybe isn't as well known, or
Right.
what have you?
It's just the songs, you know. That's the only thing that really drives me. I'm not I mean, obviously, hopefully you get to work with people who got an audience, and to try to work on popular things. You know, that's always a goal. But that is not like the guiding principle. You know, the guiding principle is like the song. And when you see magic in the world, you got to like follow the trail. You know. And I saw that in Time the same way. Same thing that happened to you, you know, happened to me when I was just watching his Facebook video. Yeah, I think he had just kind of written the song, and he was like performing it just on like Facebook Live or something. And I was just like, Jesus Christ, this song
Mm-hmm.
incredible, you know, like and so and he's such a great guy too. You know, I got a chance to meet him and talk with him previous to all that. So, um, yeah, when I heard the song, I was just like, yeah, I gotta be a part of this. You know.
Absolutely. And we all thank you from the bottom of our heart for taking Clemente under your wing, uh, because he is just a superstar in the making.
Mhm. Yeah,
Voice like butter. He knows how to write a song too. I mean,
yeah,
his
yeah.
writing is so good. Later in June, I think that one even gave me, the hair stood up on me and goosebumps at the same time. That chorus, that hit, man, it's just incredible. And then you come in and make it just amazing. I've got a question from my good buddy Marco Melados, and he's wanting to know about your use of bass. What's your favorite bass plugin, synth, and your favorite real bass? Because I think bass is so important, and you find a way within your production to really bring that out and make it fill the room and sound so warm.
Yeah, bass is super tricky, man. It's a very powerful instrument, and it's like deceptively powerful in the sense that a lot of times when I first started mixing music, I'd end up turning up the bass like obnoxiously too loud.
Mm-hmm.
Because I love bass, I love what it does to music, and I was just like, yeah, fucking crank that shit up, you know, like. But then I'd like test it in my car and like blow out my speakers, you know, or so, you know, it's just like I started to realize that it's a very tricky instrument to get just right, where you find the right balance within the music. So yeah, I think for me, before even plugins or instruments, one important thing is the arrangement, you know, and not just in the sense of like verse chorus bridge and stuff, but like the arrangement of the notes, and finding the right pattern for the song. It plays a world of difference, and I think is definitely one of the biggest contributors to like how it'll end up sounding. For me, the two things I use the most, I got, give me 1 second. Got my the live bass I love to use. This thing is incredible. All right,
Yeah.
Subway guitars. I actually went in to buy a Rickenbacker guitar, a Rickenbacker bass. And the guy was like, "Oh, what kind of music do you make?" And I was like, "Oh, I do some reggae and stuff." He's like, "Oh, it's like playing reggae. You want this bass?" And he's like shuffling through stuff, and he pulls this thing out. It's got like no name on the headstock. It's made of all these different pieces of different bases, just put together. It's I call it Frankenstein, and but it sounds amazing. It like it as soon as you just it automatically sends it to a mix. Beautiful. I love it. And it's got an alembic pickup in it, which gives it like an extended like sub frequency range, which is really nice. So you can really rival like what you can do on a synth with this thing, but still kind of get the natural feel of things. So I find myself using this quite a bit. And then I also got the Moog Minotaur, which is actually like an analog synth. This one down there.
Ah,
Um, and I'll use that for like synth bass and stuff a lot most times. I'd say I find that to be far superior to plugins. There's something about the tone. It has what's cool is that there's no presets or anything. It's fully analog, so you just you shape each bass tone to like the song. So you find what really sits nicely with the particular tune and arrangement and stuff, you know.
yeah, dude. Well, that's killer. It doesn't even have a name on the headstock. I love it.
Yeah.
So Blue has a question too. We're gonna still stay in the idea of production in the realm of production. And it was really good one. The idea of mastering can be a very tricky thing as well. I think, when it comes, you can have like a really, really good mix, and then you can immediately fuck it up with a bad master. What are your thoughts on mastering?
That's also another tricky thing. One thing I try to do when I'm mixing is to not worry about mastering too much. I found myself back in the day, like I tried to once I kind of got a mix going, and then I try to spend a good amount of time on the mastering chain too, even if I intended it to get mastered somewhere else. Through a lot of EQing and different compression and limiting and stuff like that, and different tricks, that you do for all that. And uh, then I found that a lot of times, like I'd end up competing with the master, with my master, and like I'd have this feeling like um, I don't know, it was just like two different flavors, and it was hard to choose, like which one was actually better. Um, And so what I started doing was like I'll do a light limiting on the master bus when I'm mixing, just to get it kind of in the ballpark of volume and level, the proper kind of what you'd kind of expect from a master, but not spending any time at all really trying to get it to actually sound mastered. So that way, once the mastering session occurs, typically it always feels like it's getting much better, so I enjoy that. I try not to spend too much time. I'll just bring it up a little bit and get the and try to get the balance right. Once you get it mastered and you find someone that you're working with that you feel is cohesive with your style of music and stuff, um, it's an interesting process, because sometimes it like reveals things that that like you didn't realize were a problem before,
Hmm.
maybe like when everything gets like squished together, all of a sudden like the vocals are a little too bright, or maybe the bass isn't hitting hard enough anymore, like the relationships of the balances change, and so um I've always found myself being really kind of diligent in that process instead of just accepting what happens. I kind of will take into account um, uh, what the mastering has done to the mix, go back to the mix and make adjustments and try to like find a way for the mix to sit into the mastering chain in a way that preserves the balances that I was trying to achieve with it. Um, and that can be a lengthy process. Like uh, when I when I did Ways of the World, man, fuck, I think we mastered Mike Den and I went through this process mastering that record probably like 9 times,
Oh my
trying to
God.
trying to get it right. But I was determined for it to sound right. Like I really wanted to make sure it sounded good on the other end of things. So and I mean that was the most I think, and I I definitely pushed him to the brink. I think he thought I was fucking nuts for sure. But yeah, and finding someone that you work well with is important too.
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot of stuff mastered from Mike Denton, and he's worked with a lot of Bay Area legends and stuff like that. It's got a lot of wisdom, and so it's been nice to partner with him with all that.
Yeah, I mean, having the right people, working with the right people when it comes to production and music is absolutely key. Passion being probably the first thing, but man, you got to have people around you that are in the same energy space as you and are feeling the same things as you. So, keeping on production real quick. If you guys are just tuning in, you're super late. We're right in the middle of a big old production talk with the one, the only Johnny Cosmic. Stick figure, magician, producing master, alien. What else can I say? I mean, everything. So, do you have this question's actually for me. Do you have a moment in your career of production that will always stand out to you? Like no matter if it was you're producing some of Stick's stuff or your own stuff or Clemente or who else, anything, any moment that you're like, man, I'll never forget that moment.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many of them, uh, and really, I guess for the most part, you try not to reflect and think about it too much, because it's always like a constant. You're always worried about where you are at this moment, as an artist or a creator, and what the next step is going to be. But yeah, it's hard to isolate one moment. But I will say that I think when we did the Movement Ways of the World record, I remember being, I'm proud of everything, but like I was just really proud. I felt really proud of that record, um, and really excited about it. I remember when we had gotten done with the initial first sessions, and I had like a CD of the like just rough mixes, like of just what we had thrown down. It wasn't really edited or like overdubbed and mixed or nothing like that. It was just the kind of the raw tracks. And I remember like driving around just fucking rocking out, being like, dude, this is gonna be so dope. This is gonna be a
Yeah,
really great record. I was very excited about it. And it was an arduous process to go through the whole thing. And once we finally got out the other end, and it felt like it was received really well. It was a very proud moment. And that, yeah.
that's amazing, man. Hey, you're talking about driving around. I always have thought that when I want to listen to a final product of something, the best place to listen to that product and know it's in the right spot is in my car. Is that true to you as well?
Well, I think it's just what's really important is the place that you listen is familiar to you. So I think a lot of people find it's their car because as they're commuting, to and fro, you're listening to music and stuff like that. So you clock in a lot of hours listening to a lot of all your favorite jams. So you get a sense intuitively kind of like, oh, this is how things should sound. And so A lot of people, they find the car is the best place for them,
Yeah.
um, for a final test. My car right now actually doesn't play any music.
Oh, really?
I had to change my battery, and then when I plugged it, when I replaced it and put it back on, there's like a code reset, and I went to the dealership, and they're like, "Well, I don't know what the code is," and so I've just been stuck with no music.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, so I don't have the car reference available to me right now.
Dude, it's something about the car for me. Always, always, always. Oh, here comes a little alien. We're going to talk
All right.
about aliens
Hey.
here in just a second. Something about the car that always just kind of like it envelops me when I'm driving. I can feel the music more, and headphones, of course, too. If you guys are just tuning in, you are late. We got Johnny Cosmic in the house. He's over at Great Stone Studios in Oakland with his guitar and all his cool gadgets and his computer, and of course his beautiful soul. Man, I wanted to we're talking about production. I want to shift gears to aliens. Me and you have kind of talked a few times. We both loving the stuff that Melody Sheep is doing. And you're looking at all this craziness that's happening with the congressional hearings
Mhm.
on I guess it's UAPs now. Tell us what you think, man. What do you think is going on with the aliens?
Yeah, I love it. I think something is
Yeah.
going on for sure. You know, I just recently went to go see Metallica play, uh, and one of the shows that I saw him at was in Phoenix, and so we stopped in Sedona on the way there and did a UFO sighting thing,
Oh,
where
cool.
like this lady takes you out, you know, like in this piece of land, and then we got night vision goggles, and we're able to like stare up at the sky for a couple of hours. And she's done like 1,000 of these things or something, and it was really incredible. We saw tons of stuff going on up there, man, like
Wow.
tons of activity. Uh, it was like there was a highway in the sky, like for like strange craft that didn't they didn't have the traditional like blinking lights that are like required by any aircraft, you know. Um, uh, we saw a ton of them, so it was an interesting experience. All the stuff on the news and everything like that with the whistleblowers coming out, I think, is a positive thing. Um, Giving kind of credence for hopefully like science to kind of step in even further, at least in the public realm of things. Obviously, they've been doing stuff on the covert side of things, but it would be nice for disclosure to happen, you know, to like really give everyone, I think, a new perspective on, um, you know, where we are in the universe, our you know, our companions out there in the stars, you know.
Absolutely. So, did you? I've been wanting to see these things forever, and I've never seen anything. When you were out there in Arizona doing that thing, what did you see? Like you said, there was like a alien like highway, in the
Yeah.
sky. What? Elaborate on that a little bit more.
We saw like different craft like flying around in the sky. Obviously, you can't really see, they're thousands of feet up or whatever, you know, so you can't really see any like definition of the ship, but you see the like the little light, you know, the light that's traveling around in the sky. And with a desire to rule out anything that's normal, you know, like planes, satellites, stars, anything that could be like man-made that's flying in the sky, you know, like she definitely gave a good briefing of like what to expect of all the man-made objects. So just looking for stuff that's like anomalous from that. And there was a ton of stuff, a ton. Like
Wow.
uh I have to stress too that the night vision goggles are, I never even thought about this before because the only context I really thought about night vision goggles was like some kind of military context, you know, like some dude like peering off in the distance, like watching some target or something, right? Like,
Yeah.
but if you turn them up to the sky, it's like it's fucking incredible.
Hmm.
You see like hundreds of thousands of more stars. The sensitivity of like what you can see up there is incredible. And so like these things that you probably normally wouldn't even see with the naked eye all of a sudden become visible, you know, once you got the night vision goggles and you're looking up at the sky. Um, and like I said, it there was so many, it was almost like there was like a highway or something, like there's a highway in the sky up there, like that you could just see all this traffic going through. There was like multiple craft, like all like having the same, like following the same pattern, you know, locked in and shit. Um, I saw one moving crazy, like super fast, like
Huh.
zigzagging all over the place. I was like, wow.
Wow.
It was cool. It was very cool.
It blows me away, man. Like, I was telling Blue the other day, I was like, yo, like, I think it was like right in the middle of the jamdemic, the pandemic. I was like, you watch in in a little bit of time. I don't know how long it's going to be, but something's going to be happening soon. There,
Mm,
we're advancing as a society, technologically, more and more and more every day. And just like what you were talking about, when you put those night vision goggles on, which is, more, technology, we can only see this much of the spectrum, you know
right.
so the more and more technology comes out, the more we're going to be able to see these things. And I keep speculating. I'm like, is it, you know us from the future, because these non-biologics that they're apparently finding and all this stuff, the grays, kind of look like us. Is that an
Mm,
evolution of us? And they're coming back, because all the nuclear stuff that they kind of float around and kind of stay near. And I just don't know.
mm.
What do you think you're seeing? Like, what do you think? Is it like a bunch of different intergalactic society, whatever, or is it one, or is it from people from the future? What do you think?
I mean, the only thing I really know for sure is that it's a mystery.
Mm.
So I try not to think in terms of like what I think I know it is, you know, and just kind of leave myself open to what it could be. I mean, if I feel like it could be a whole variable of different scenarios. They could be visitors from a far off star system. You know, they could be within our own solar system. They could be actually from Earth, but just had evolved first. You know, and now they just occupy a space on the Earth, whether it's in the oceans or under Antarctica or something like right. Any sort of place we wouldn't be, and using us as kind of a test subject to see back into their evolutionary process. They could be time travelers. Yeah, they could be. I mean, it could be mad scientists, like human mad scientists that like crack the code on their own and just have their own like way of being able to move and do things. You know, it could be our government that is completely organized and all the black projects and all that stuff. Like, I feel like there's a lot of possibilities, you know, and obviously they've been adding in like interdimensional beings and stuff like that too. And so you got to think almost in like extra dimensions and not just like the 3D universe that we kind of perceive, but like, um, the larger forces at play. I mean, I even thought about like, what if, what if they're so big that we can't even see them?
Yeah.
Like, what if like our galaxy is just like a little pin drop to them, you know, right? And so they're like looking down at us, you know, from this huge vantage point, which we would be always impossible for us to actually perceive them, right? Because all we see is just this dark space, you know, like
Hmm.
it's like 'cause we're like maybe we're inside it, and then when you see things like appear and then disappear, it's really them just, making some little probe that goes into our plane of existence and pops back out again. Um, I don't know, there's a lot of possibilities. But I'm intrigued to learn more, and I feel like the government definitely has some kind of head start on all that. I suppose they probably don't have the whole thing figured out either. It's just probably why it's been so secretive. But I think the one thing to think about too is not only is the government secretive, but the aliens themselves are clandestine, like
Mhm.
they hide themselves. They don't,
Mhm.
at least in the ancient stories, right? They were communicating like with the beings that were on the planet. But at some point in time, they stopped doing that. They must have some sort of reason. Uh, maybe the communication between us wasn't like a good thing for us. Maybe when they saw that we made them into gods and these things, and then we created a whole ideologies around them and stuff like that. Maybe they thought it was a dangerous thing, or I'm not sure. That's obviously pure speculation, but uh, yeah, I don't know. Like it's a very intriguing topic, and I'm really looking forward to disclosure. I hope it happens.
We're living in a very, very special time in humanity's existence right now. I do think we are going to experience some kind of disclosure in our lifetimes. I think something is coming sooner than we think. I do.
I hope so, man. I wanna. I don't know. It would be awesome. It would be awesome to think for humanity to realize that like there's something much bigger at play, in a very like visceral way,
Yeah.
not just in kind of like a theoretical way, but in like kind of a physical sense. And um, yeah, I would hope that that would push us to be better, to kind of live up to what I think is possible for humans and life. Um, I don't know, but maybe we're holding ourselves back still though. We have a hard enough time like dealing with each other, like racism and all the other reasons that we decide to like hate each other and hurt each other. It's like uh we can't maybe we need to solve our problem first before we can like move on to like a different other being altogether that we weren't even familiar with. It's like maybe that's what's holding this whole thing back too.
You're absolutely right. And you said it in one of my favorite songs of yours. You said, "This is an open letter to the future generations. Don't do what your daddies did. Some were defiant, some lovers, some tyrants, but you're standing on the shoulders of giants. It's up to you to bring us to someplace new, man."
Yeah.
So, hey, we got Johnny Cosmic in the house. We just got done with our alien conversation. Everybody out there, man, this stuff is so real. And Johnny's right though. He knows one thing. It's a mystery. It's mysterious, but it's definitely out there. Speaking of aliens, man, you know, our buddy Matt Sands had a question for you, man. Going back to
Uh,
music, what are you listening to? I know that you love Krungbin, and so do
yeah.
we. I can't get enough Krungbin.
They've
We're
probably been my favorite band for like the past like 5, 6 years or so.
insanely good, and they are this whole movement. I was talking to my buddy Neil from a band called Astro Color out of uh, Western Canada,
Nice.
and their most recent record was produced by Krungbin's producer, and they were calling this movement of music out there retro pop. It's bringing
All right.
back old sounds, old feelings in music from the Flower Power 60s, early 70s, all the analog, stuff. And that's what we cannot stop listening to. Skin Shape,
Yeah.
Krungbin. What else, man? What are you listening to?
There's a really cool band that I've been falling in love with. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but La Lom, Lalom.
Mm,
And they have this like it's like cumbia or something like that, but then mixed with like the kind of surfy like old school tones and like really catchy riffs, amazing grooves, um, and just that beautiful old school sound. Like I've been really enjoying them a lot lately. Um,
La Lome,
yeah,
Lalom. Very cool.
yeah,
Never heard of him.
these guys are fucking amazing, amazing, so good. Um, One thing that I've really loved recently is Los Panchos too.
Uh-huh.
They're old school trio um, from Mexico, and their songs are incredible. They're amazing singers. Definitely really enjoy those guys.
There is so much more music than just the United States of America. Everybody out there, explore the world of music, and not just what we have here at home. What we have here at home is fantastic, but there is music just pouring out of every single corner of this planet, and it's just we're so lucky to have Simmer Down. It is a reggae and world music show. So we have the opportunity to talk with these artists to get that different perspective, man. So La Lome and Los Panchos.
Yeah.
All right. Matt Sands, my buddy Matt Sands out there. That is your answer. And speaking of music, man, I do want to just kind of catch up with you and what you've been, up to and what you're looking towards in the future. What's coming up, man? You got some music coming. I know always busy with stick figure, always busy in the
Yeah.
studio. What you got coming up?
Making a record with Fonalia, which is turning out great. We're making a one with Mohali as well. Hector Lewis, he's the singer who filled in for Steve and Tribal Seeds for a while. Amazing musician,
Yeah.
amazing singer. And that project is pretty much done. Sounding, I mean, the album is gonna be really cool for sure. Uh, Bong and I are gonna be writing. We kind of got some songs in the mix and kind of brewing up. So yeah, a lot of cool music coming up.
And how can everybody kind of keep up with you and find everything and anything cosmic?
Just on Instagram or just out on the road.
I think it's johnnycosmicmusic.com, at
Yeah.
Johnny Cosmic on the socials, man. It has been a blast chatting with you, man. I really wanted to chat aliens with you because it's something that, we both are definitely interested in. And there's just so many possibilities
Mm,
of what it could all be and where it's going and what it'll do to us as a society. It is the number one question. Are we alone? And it does not
right.
look like we are, man.
Mm,
And it's just magic. I mean, aliens are just aliens all day, every day, man. So every time I interview somebody for the first time, they get this question, and you're going to get it as well. You were talking about reggae music in an interview that you did, and you said it was be yourself. The cool thing about reggae is you be yourself and you make it yourself. What does reggae mean to you?
yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. I think the one thing I kind of noticed about reggae music, besides some of the obvious things that people notice, uh, was that it has a number of different style changes throughout the timeline, But one thing that like remains as a thread throughout all that is that they always interpreted music their own way, like fearlessly, Like they would take stuff that they were being inspired by, you could hear the kind of Motown influences and stuff like that on the early tracks and influences of jazz music and stuff like that, but totally like reanimated through their own vision, you know. Uh, and I thought like out of all the characteristics of the music, I thought that was the one that was most defining. And so I think sometimes when you analyze a pattern at a certain particular point in that history, right? You say, oh, like one drop, whatever, right? And then you say, okay, well, how do you, and you quantify the whole thing, right? You say, oh, the drum does this, and the bass does this, and the keyboard does this, and singer does that. And if you just hit all these patterns, right, then you're playing that authentic style of reggae music or whatever, But I thought to be truly authentic to the real spirit of the reggae music, then you have to like fearlessly channel it through your own perspective as well and do that same thing to honor the tradition of it. So really your music shouldn't turn out sounding like a repetition of a particular, like breakdown of whatever, style that you wanted to get, but it would have its own unique twist to it that identified you inside there,
Yeah.
and I think that's important. I think that's really important, and I think it kind of goes for no matter what kind of music you're playing, or maybe even anything that you're doing in life, like yeah, don't be afraid to be yourself, and put your own voice into your expression.
Everyone go support Johnny and everything he does. He's such a special, special human being. Johnny, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, dude.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
Peace and love.
All right.